And I get this individual, I'm not going to say the exact words because they were expletives here, but it was simply, what do you think you are doing? We don't pray for our clients. You keep that to yourself. Expletive, 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 expletive.
You are listening to Christians in Corporate, the podcast that inspires corporate Christians to bring their full selves to work by shining a light on successful corporate executives and leaders across the globe. I'm your host, Paige Rakintarian. Let's get into it.
Today's episode is so good. I'm joined by Aramide, a business and AI technologist who's bridging the worlds of data, storytelling, and creativity. She's worked at top consulting firms, leads in the cloud tech space, and hosts the Dear Nigerians podcast for millennial Nigerians navigating identity. Her journey is one of obedience, quiet trust, and God's timing, even when the wait was long. We talk about being underestimated as a Black woman in tech, using spiritual intelligence at work, and 2 words from God that shifted everything. This one's for the corporate Christian learning to be spirit-led in rooms not built for them. Let's get into it.
Aramide, so great to have you here today. How are you
Hi,
doing?
Pedro. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited. And
Yes.
just thank you for the invite. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course. I'm excited to get stuck in this conversation. I feel like I say this all the time when I start my podcast, but I genuinely very excited because today we're going to be talking about all things faith and work as usual. But you
Yeah.
have such a unique story that I need the people to hear today.
Awesome.
As I was prepping for this session, there's a stat that I came across, and I'll read it because it's really, really important. And it was from a new research study from Voca and Barna. The study is called Life at Work 2025, and it says only
Mhm.
9% of Christians in the workplace consult faith-based resources when they're going through a challenge at work. So to
Yeah.
unpack that, what that means is only 9% of Christians in the workplace read the Bible or consult godly counsel when they're going through it at work. That
Yeah.
is a huge gap. That
That's
is a
surprisingly
huge gap.
small.
That is
It's
so
surprising.
small. That is so
Yeah.
small. But then I was just like to myself, I was like, well, do I really grab the Bible when I'm going through it at work? Not always. I don't
Uh-huh.
always do. That's not always the first thing that
Sure.
I do. Um,
Sure.
so,
Sure.
but I think that your story is a beautiful one because I think that's actually what you did. And you started it very, very, very early
Yes.
on in your career. And so
Yeah.
I need people to hear what it should be and also what the fruits are when you do it. So we're going to go into that. But before we get
Yeah.
started, I have some icebreaker questions just to kind of
Sure. Let's do it.
people so that they know who you are.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are just really, I think I have like 7 or 8 questions, icebreaker questions, yes or this or that. So you just choose one
Okay.
out of the others, and then we'll get started into your journey. So
All
morning
right.
devotional or evening reflection.
Morning devotional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you rather learn from failure or avoid failure?
Learn from failure.
Bible app or physical Bible?
Physical Bible. I like to write my thoughts,
Yeah.
write novels in my Bible.
That is the most common response. I agree. Like it
Yes.
just hits different when like you can
Yeah.
Bible app is like convenient in the moment, but physical
Yeah.
Bible is like
Yeah.
underlying, right in the margin and all that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like the Bible talks back to you, right? Like the
Mm,
Holy Spirit talks to
yes.
you, and you
Yeah.
got to find somewhere to put those words,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
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 hmm
Agree. Agree. Sunday nap or Sunday meal with the family?
Ooh, it doesn't matter. I do both with the family right now.
Okay. Yeah, because you have 2 young kids.
I have
So
little, so they're
yeah.
all over. So,
Um,
yeah.
tough decisions or tough conversation?
That. Let's go with tough decisions because tough
Mhm.
decisions means you're moving ahead into something. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Stretching
yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Strategy session or vision casting?
Ah.
I feel like
Let's
you're a
just
visionary. Ever since I've known you, you've always been like some
so
sort of.
yeah, so that's the thing, right? I was gonna say actually strategy session because that's an area of muscle I need to build, right?
Mm,
The vision part excites me. Like, let's do
mhm,
this and let's see this. But like
yeah,
the strategy, the execution, the delivery to the actual results, it's something I feel like I continually need to have strengthening. So I'm gonna say
yeah,
that because
yeah.
that's what like I'm working on right now.
Great.
So yeah.
Love the growth mindset. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, 2 more. Old Testament or New Testament? Well, I should say this: Old Testament stories or New Testament teachings?
Ah. New Testament has the red words. That's Jesus.
Yeah,
The whole Bible's beautiful. The
yeah.
whole Bible points to him, but like I can read his words and know like that's my
You said
pattern for
it.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. It's funny because when I'm fasting, I love to read the Gospels because it's just
Yeah.
like you're just so sensitive, and then you're just like, oh, Jesus is speaking. Let me.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, yeah. It's just so I don't know. It's stunning, but revelatory. It's everything in
Yeah,
one box. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Agree, agree. All right, last one. Are you a texter or a caller?
Depends.
Oh, what does it depend on who the person is?
The person, the situation, depends. Honestly, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. No, 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 no. That's a classic consultant answer. Like, of course you are a consultant.
I cannot tell you the number of times I've said it depends.
I know. That's what we say in the consulting world. It
Yes,
depends. It really
it
does.
depends. It
Because it
does.
does
There's so
depend.
many nuances,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. All right. Okay. Let's get started. Let's get started from
Okay,
the
cool.
beginning. Because I know I know you were a former consultant, but now you're in the tech world.
Yep.
So I love for us to go all the way back though, right?
Yes.
I always like to get a good picture of where things started and how
Yes.
things are going. Like,
Yeah.
right, just talking about the glory of God and how good he's been. So my first question to you is, what did you dream of as becoming? What did you dream of becoming when you were a younger child? Growing up, the caveat is growing up in a Nigerian household.
Yeah. See, as a child, I always knew I had this creative muscle, and every child has it. But it never left me. Like even in high school, I was the girl going to like my advanced math class with charcoal stains on her pants from art class. I've always been that person. And the creative side is what I always lean to. So I always knew I wanted to be a creative. And I even dared to say in a Nigerian household, I dared to say I wanted to be a fashion designer. So that's it. Yeah.
And your parents were like, eh? What do you mean? You're going to be a doctor. What are you talking about?
My mom was like, sewing clothes? No, 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 no. Fashion, like it's saying fashion designers versus I sew clothes. That's two very different, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
But that's just how it was seen. And so yeah, there were conversations that needed to be had.
So we'll take it that your parents didn't respond in the best way or the way you thought that they would
The
respond.
way
How
I
did you
wanted them
navigate
to
or how
respond.
you wanted? Yeah, that's what I should say.
Yeah,
How did you
yeah.
navigate that tension?
Oh my gosh. Golly, I don't even know that I navigated it. And if I like fast forward to like the point of high school graduation and choosing a major,
Hmm.
that was actually a huge thing for me because I used to call corporate America cubicle America, like as a high school student saying all these
Hmm.
things you don't really know. And so I would just be like, I don't see myself in cubicle America. And then I would always be just struggling. So literally it was me. I wanted to go to Parsons. I was looking
Hmm.
at like art schools in London and Parsons in the US. And um, it was a lot of tension with my parents. But I have to admit though, like my dad, like he's a man that he's a researcher, a man with his
Hmm.
ears to the ground. So he didn't necessarily like toss out the creative part. And even in fact, he will himself would say, like, my daughter's a creative and I know it.
Hmm.
Right. But for him, it's like putting my ears to the ground. What does the pathway for creatives typically look
Yeah,
like? He
yeah,
did the research and it's like, nah, girl, not for you.
yeah,
Not for you.
yeah, yeah.
Did I navigate it? I wouldn't say so. If Nigerian household, it is the parent's authority.
Yeah,
So
it
I
is.
ended up going to study economics, which that in itself was a whole other journey.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
studied economics and then you shifted to a career in consulting, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I studied economics and I can't even say I shifted. I started economics. I got the degree, which was like, okay, I got this degree that I didn't want in the first place. And I'm not saying that to be ungrateful.
Yeah.
But then it was like, okay, now go start your life.
Hmm.
And it's like, well, I have this degree. What's even the way I got my job in consulting, it's just so funny. Yeah, it was a process. I graduated during the time of an economic downturn,
Mm.
oh 07. Oh, wait, no,
Mm.
no, no, no,
Oh, wait.
2011.
Oh, 2011.
2011,
Okay. Okay.
graduated college,
Okay.
right? Economic downturn. And the funny thing at college, I had done a lot of creative things. And then I also did well in school. So even putting
Mm.
myself in front of like banks and Chase and I read MB Financial and all of
Mm.
that. they were like, they would look at my resume and cock their head, like, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
So didn't necessarily get a job, but eventually it happened and it started in consulting. I'm fast forwarding a lot because even the story behind that is interesting,
No,
but I
that's where we
started in
want to go.
consulting.
That's where we want to go because in our
Yeah.
pre-talk, honestly, you told me this story and I just
Yeah.
said, oh my goodness, this is the blueprint. So
Yeah.
I guess my next question to get us into the meat,
Yeah.
potatoes of this discussion is at what point, I guess, as you said, like going into consulting was just surprising in itself. You made it, you
Exactly.
but at what point did
Exactly.
you realize that, okay, this really isn't sustainable and this does not align with my internal compass?
You know, it's so interesting. Um, at what point did I realize the point when I'm doing research saying what is Accenture, who was my my first employer, right? But at the same time, it's like I have a responsibility now to build my life, right?
Yeah.
I can't just have this degree and not do anything about it. So let me go ahead and see what's behind the doors. Then I got the job, right? And oh gosh, I'm fast forwarding through a lot because even my creative nature came up at the job interview. But I got the job and I get the job with this realization like, okay, God, this right here, this brand name that when I say, tell people I got a job, they're so excited for, I didn't plan for this. This is
Mhm.
not necessarily what I wanted. I don't even know what lies behind these doors. So what do you want me to do with, like, what am I doing? You
Yeah.
know? And so that was the start of my career. And that's what triggered everything. What am I doing here?
Hmm.
Especially as someone who had said, I don't see myself in cubicle America. Very ignorantly, I said that.
Yeah.
But I started, and at Accenture, I don't know if Accenture still does this, but with entry level recruits, what they do is they take you to their training facility in St. Charles,
Good
and
job.
you're there. Yeah, St.
I
Charles.
think
It's a
anyone
lovely
who's in
place.
consultant knows about St. Charles. Even if you're not Accenture, you could be
Yeah,
McKinsey, BTG, I feel like, and I feel like every consulting place does have like their St. Charles
has something,
equivalent.
but I feel like Accenture originated that. I feel
Yeah,
like I think
probably,
I think I've
probably.
heard that.
Yeah, because when
Yeah,
I was at KPMG, I know that they had one in like they built one in Florida, and like
yeah.
now we kind of have one, but yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I started to St. Charles, 30 days, and I'm coming in with folks who are newly hired from, quite frankly, across the world.
Hmm.
Because I remember meeting some folks from Great Britain across the world. So it's all of us newly graduated folks starting in our careers, right? We're essentially the same until the program starts. And I'm coming into this program, getting into St. Charles, and still asking the question, God, what am I doing here? I decide that this 30-day training will be a 30-day training for me, but it's also going to be a 30-day fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, I have this thing that feels accidental and I need a pathway. What is this? So, what does the fast mean, right? 9 to 5, we're all training. We go for lunch at 12 p.m. And then in the evenings, we're left to our own devices on that place to go network. The fast for me, though, means I'm in class 9 to 5 with everyone, but in the evenings, I'm praying while
Mm-hmm.
my own colleagues are going out to the bars to meet partners and all of that, but also to drink and get drunk.
Hmm.
Right? That's my start.
Yeah.
I'm starving while everyone's like living it up. Right. And I would come to the classroom every day and you would literally, because, these are still like fresh college students, don't really have control with alcohol a
Yeah.
little bit. The class would be oozing with the stench of alcohol, like it's seeping from their pores. And I'm walking in starving.
Starving.
I have not had breakfast. I did not have a crazy night before, you know. And during the lunch times, what did I do? And this is part of also being strategic. I wouldn't eat at lunch. I'd keep a bottle of water with me and make sure I networked with people, right?
Hmm.
But then maybe like 10, 15 minutes at lunch, I'd go pray. And then after the course, after the day, I'd then go pray some more,
Yeah.
read the Bible, all of that stuff. But I did that for 30 days. And over the course of 30 days, and again, this is like also at that point in time, I kind of understood a little bit about how God talks to me. I'm a visual person.
Hmm.
I was praying once and I just saw the word consumer. It was
Hmm.
written in white text against a blue background. I saw the word consumer.
Hmm.
Now, you get these promptings from God, but you really don't know what it means, and
Hmm.
you need wisdom. And so I went to Dr. Google,
Hmm.
like consumer, but nothing there. Then I went to like Accenture's, every consulting company has this, like their
Repository.
repository of every
Hmm.
work they've done. And I'm start looking into consumer, and in consumer, in my mind, turns into consumer analytics, and then that turns into data and business intelligence and, oh, we use this data to understand consumers. And then we do digital analytics. And so that's how I started, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
what you just said was loaded. So let's
Yeah.
just like walk back. So let me do a
Yeah.
recap of what I think I heard and obviously chime in. So you go to St. Charles, they're living it up. You're out there fasting. So was it training 30 days?
It was training 30 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a long time. Okay.
It is long.
Oh,
I don't know if
yeah.
they do it like it's
Yeah.
costly. I don't, even the world
Yeah.
we're in now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in that moment, and one thing that you said that I loved is that you didn't keep yourself away from, like, you separated yourself at the times that you needed to, but you were still
Yes.
engaged when doing the
Yes.
networking you needed to do, right? And I think
Yes.
that's really important. If that's a principle, I would want to draw that out because I think a lot of people think that if they're fasting, they need to completely separate themselves. But there's
No.
faith without works is dead, right? You have to do
Yeah.
something in parallel
Yeah.
so that you're still, you're still working the system or doing what you need to do to get the results that you need. So I love that you said
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
But one thing that you said that was interesting was how God speaks to you, right? And you saw the word
Yeah.
consumer. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that a lot of people may not know, right? They can actually do this fast,
Mm.
they can do a fast and be with other people, but they have no idea what God is saying. So
Hmm.
let's unpack that a little bit. How you
Yeah.
said that you're creative, so God talks to you in a certain way, but can you tell us a little bit more about your experience?
Yeah. 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 In terms of like how God talks to you and knowing that, the truth, the most natural way I can explain it is, well, if you have a friend or a love interest, the
Yeah.
more you spend time with them, the more you have conversations, the more you get it,
Yeah.
right? Like if I think about with myself and my husband, there's a way that he can cock his mouth that I'm like, there's something you're
Mhm.
not telling me. What is it?
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? But I've
Yeah.
seen that enough times to
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
So, like when you spend your own time with God, I didn't start out in my relationship with him knowing he talks to me in pictures. I didn't even know God talks to people in pictures,
Mhm.
right? But I started to get promptings like dreams, even pictures. Sometimes I would even like be in a room. I'd see a picture in my mind of someone doing something, and then 5 minutes later they're doing it, right? And
Mhm.
those, did I need to know the future? No, but what did that give me? Intelligence that, oh God, this is one way you talk to me.
Yes.
Right. So it's just investing the time,
Mhm. Mhm.
investing the time for sometimes again, he talks to me through song lyrics.
Mhm.
I can even tell even my career search,
Mhm.
right? Like I'll share this. There used to be a song when I was in high school. It's Mike Jones. Back then they didn't want me. Now I'm hot. They all on me. Right. When I
Mhm.
was searching for a job, there was one interview. I got so dejected in that
Mhm.
interview, right? Just because of who I was and I wouldn't fit. And I went in my car and I literally slumped
Mhm.
on the steering wheel.
Mhm.
But then I heard the song. Back then, they didn't want me. Now, like, that's not accidental. Like, the Holy Spirit uses everything in your repository to talk to you, right? And to, like, considering where I'm at now, I can literally say back then they didn't want me.
Right.
Now, so yeah, it's just investing the time in knowing and getting those data points, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pick up where you left off. So you said
Yeah.
you went on to the repository, you data analytics, data and all that. So what did you do
Yeah.
now that
Yeah.
you feel like God has said something to you? You're in the
Yes.
spirit, you're flowing. Praise God, hallelujah. And I think people get
Yes.
to that point, but then
Uh-huh.
what do you do next, or what did you do next?
What I did next was pull a Joseph. I started telling everyone, this is what I'm doing. I pulled a Joseph, you know? And so I would be, knocking on doors and saying, I want to do digital analytics. And I've talked to my career counselor, I talked to managers, I talked to any partner that I had the opportunity to, who would give me their time.
Mhm.
And time after time, they would say, I'm sorry, but our business is just not organized that way. Like they would
Mhm.
look at me like, sounds cool, but our business is not organized that way. So, in the process of saying that and getting that feedback in some way, shape, or form, I literally, again, I'm still learning. Like, how do I talk to God, especially with corporate stuff?
Yeah.
I literally was like, okay, girl, you missed it.
Mhm.
And so I kept it up, to myself,
Mhm.
right? Fast forward a few more years, and I see an announcement. Accenture is going to now have Accenture Digital, and then we'll have a digital analytics practice. This is 2 years after I've
Mhm.
shut up, and
Mhm.
in the
Yeah.
process, I'm doing all the work that everyone else is doing, and still, confused and like, what am I doing? but then that happened.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Um, I love everything about that. There's so much that you just said because I think a lot of people would have just lost faith. Actually, let me ask you this question. What did you do
Yeah.
in the wait, right? Because I know
Yeah.
it was, you heard, and then 2 years later that the practice didn't stand up until two
Yeah.
years late. Like, did you just forget about it? Because even when we think about Joseph, like, obviously he had so much that happened in between when he had the dream to when he actually became, the leader
Yeah.
and things like that. Prison, he was accused of certain things, he was sold, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
But that was his weight. What do you
Yeah.
think God did with you in the weight?
Yeah,
Or
God
during the
did
weight?
with me exactly what he needed to do with me, except I didn't know it was exactly what I needed.
Mm,
Okay. God taught me how to work in the corporate world. God taught me how to show up on projects that I did not want to be in. God taught me how to stick to deadlines. God taught me how to win trust and earn trust and win trust in projects that had nothing to do with analytics, nothing to do with data, especially nothing to do with the creative things I was into. They were challenging years, but can I say that it was a waste? Absolutely not, because everything I learned in those first couple of years, I still use as in my career now. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
Hmm.
love that. And I love the piece where we just don't know that's what he's doing in that moment. And I
Yeah.
think it's over time we begin to realize, oh, I mean, retroactively, we can be like, oh, that's what he was doing. Or even like, I think as you grow maturity in the spirit, you realize that God is doing something, right? I don't know if
Yeah.
it happens to you now that like you're just
Absolutely.
like in a situation, you're like, oh my goodness, I don't want to be here, but God is doing something.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna
Absolutely.
wait it out. I'm just gonna wait it out.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk. Okay, so the department stands up. Do you join that group or what
Yep.
happens? Okay, you join.
Yeah, I joined the group. I had made the case over the past 2 years, and then I don't even know who it was. There was a partner. I was like, I want to join this group, and because I had kind of been in their ear,
Hmm.
right? It was like, okay, you just go, right? So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And so you worked there and then you left to go to a different another consulting firm, from
Yes,
what I
yeah.
understand.
So yes, so I worked there. I did data, digital analytics, data visualization, all of those things. I just kept on growing in the space of data, and then also then went into another consulting firm, Deloitte, then for 4 years
Mhm.
doing digital. But then it turned into cloud, and then big
Mhm.
data, and then it turned into AI. So
Yeah.
just following the path,
Yeah.
what. And each time as well, having times where I still needed to go fast again,
Mhm. Yeah.
still need to read the Bible again,
Mhm.
but just trying to stay as true as I could to the promptings that I had within.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, I know we spoke about this on our pre-talk and, just the navigating the challenges as a woman
Yeah.
of faith, a Black
Yep.
woman of faith in the
Yeah.
world or in the
Yeah.
consulting world. I would love for you to talk about your experience because I know,
Yeah.
just as a people leader in the space, I hear so much, especially with our Black community or
Yeah.
ethnic communities of
Yeah.
how, certain things happen or they look so young or, people don't,
Huh.
and all this kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
I would love for you to share, have you ever been one, I should ask, have you ever been mistreated at work? And two, how do
Yeah.
you handle it?
Yeah. All the misses. Mistreated, misunderstood,
Mm,
misaligned. They
mm,
happen in some way, shape, or form. Like ugh, where do I even start? Mistreated. I remember, there's being a Black woman, there's been a Black woman of faith in the workplace, there's been a Black woman of faith who is young in the
mm,
workplace, there's being a Black woman of faith who is young and a mom of young ones
mm.
in the workplace. You just tap, 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 a bunch of
Yes,
things,
back it up.
Yeah. Where can I start? So I remember one time, yeah, I think I shared this. I remember one time, especially going to the workplace and just, wanting to be a light and wanting to be intelligent, and on top of my game, but also be a light that's just like practically pointing people to Jesus, right? Those two don't have to be in two different buckets, but the corporate world, it's like it forces you to do that. I remember I had been with a client at one of my employers and they had just hired a new developer, right? And I was there as an analyst. As this is like early in my career, I was there as an analyst and was trying to do my best and was, trying to make my points to my leaders that, hey, I'm someone that's here to learn and everything. But then I see this new developer trying to, pick up this rank. This is the client's employee.
Mm.
And we're working on something, a development project. They're trying to revamp their whole like e-commerce unit. And we get in a room and the developer is there and I see that there's a problem had and the developer is just not getting it right. And, feeling empathy and just trying to understand what's going on here, you could tell like this thing was stressing this guy out, right? So one day near the end of the day, I go up to him and I'm like, hey, I noticed, how's this going? And he wasn't really getting it. And then I asked, can I pray for you? Right? Can I pray for you just to get, understand what you need to do? And this guy said to me, yes, right? So I paid for him right there in his cubicle. I thought it was private. I thought no one was there. It was near the end of the day. But apparently someone saw us, right? And went and reported me. So the next day I come into the office. I didn't know all of that happened. The next day I come into the office and I get a phone call from my lead partner on the project. Like this is like 4 levels above me.
Mm.
Okay. And I get this individual. I'm not going to say the exact words because they were expletives here, but it was simply, what do you think you are doing? We don't pray for our clients. You keep that to yourself. Expletive, 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 right? Expletive in the middle of everything.
Wow.
And, that's someone trying to tell you, kind of knock you in your corner.
Mm.
And do I blame him? No, that's just the nature of it. Like people think I walk into the office, religion and faith out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm embodying all that
Mm-hmm.
my faith is
Mm-hmm.
within me. It doesn't stay out the door, it comes in, So that's one example.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, I remember after that was reported, people on that project started to treat me badly. Um,
Mm.
Even the guy that I prayed for that accepted my prayer. I remember there was a lady at the client one day. We were renting like a row of cubicles, so you can walk through the hall and pass through everyone's cubicles to the left and to the right. And she baked cakes, and she went from cubicle to cubicle to cubicle to give everyone a cupcake. And she passed my cubicle like I was a nasty flea, right? Now I could give that a pass and say, well, I'm the consultant. But then I see her go to my colleague who is on my
Mhm.
consulting team.
Right.
But stuff like that. And yeah, things like that happen and it's okay. It's
That
okay.
is, oh man, that's
Yeah.
really painful. That is really painful. I mean, yeah. Well, first of all, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. And the sad thing is that it happens so much. That's
It
the sad
happens so
thing.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It
one thing,
happens so much.
go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, you
No,
go
I was
ahead.
gonna say one thing that as I was growing up, obviously my dad was so big in the corporate world, and he always used to be
Yeah.
like, "Don't talk about your faith." He actually used to tell me that, "Don't talk
Yeah.
about your faith, don't talk about
Yeah.
politics." Don't, like they were like several things you should never say at work, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that's so embedded in the culture, and I still think it is, even though we have all these whole
It
faith
is.
work movement things, and we're trying to be more, diverse in like ethnicity and religion and opinions and all that kind of stuff. But I
Yeah.
still think it's still something that is people don't want to talk about. People don't want to have the uncomfortable conversations. And it just makes it
Yeah.
hard as us as people of faith to spread the word because you're going to be, people are going to tell on you, right? Ethics and
Yeah. Yeah.
compliance
Yeah.
hotline,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly. But you know what? I actually, at the point in time, at that point, yeah, it was painful, but I actually look at it back at it and think that was a necessary lesson for me to learn,
Mm-hmm.
right? In that it really very quickly showed me this is the landscape that you're in,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, what are
Hmm.
you going to do about it? The next thing I had to ask
Right.
myself, but it was a necessary lesson for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in terms of like being mistreated, being misaligned, being even spoken over,
Yeah.
it's sometimes something that you just have to get used to because
Yeah.
Jesus himself experienced it.
That's
You
it.
know,
That's
he
it.
did, he experienced it. Like I can imagine him being on the cross and him being so, so deeply hated that even the people he healed could have been throwing
Mm-hmm.
things and saying
Yeah.
crucify.
Yeah.
It happened to him,
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Okay. All right. Let's talk about since you're an AI person, I love
Yeah.
engaging with AI people, but we're not going to take it technical. We're going to take it
Okay.
spiritual because I want to talk about
Sure.
AI, artificial intelligence versus
Yeah.
spiritual intelligence, right?
Hmm.
And so I feel like your story definitely is filled with spiritual intelligence. This the
Yeah.
ability to download and action the word and wisdom of God in your
Mhm.
career. I feel like that's exactly what you've done, right? You went from, oh my goodness, what am I doing here, to, oh wow, I have clarity. I saw this
Yeah.
thing 2 years before it needed to even start, and now I'm part of the evolution of something that's so big in this world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so I would love to ask you, how important do you think spiritual intelligence is, especially in an environment or, a career or a world where it's totally AI driven, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's looking for quick answers. Like I'm going to be honest, I didn't just discover ChatGPT, but I've only started to
Yeah.
use it more and more frequently
Sure.
recently.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's so powerful. It's such a powerful tool. And so
Yeah.
how do you think that we as Christians can balance, or corporate Christians can get the right
Yeah.
balance between AI and spiritual intelligence?
Sure. I'm going to say two things. This is going to be the foundation. The first thing is this. Um, to answer your question directly, spiritual intelligence is the most important thing because
Yeah.
it's the most dynamic thing.
Hmm.
Spiritual intelligence is not just about facts, it's also about direction,
Hmm.
it's also about disposition, it's also about awareness, it's also about interaction, right? Talking to someone, a client, a customer, and knowing in that moment he's saying these words, but he actually means this. That's spiritual understanding,
Yeah.
right? So that's the first thing I'm going to say. The second thing I'm going to say, and I'm just going to give everyone a tip, just in terms of like even the conversations I get into at work, right? Yes, you hear things about super intelligence, and Mark Zuckerberg is trying to get us there. But think right now in terms of for Christians too. Think of AI as primarily acceleration. First, start with your spiritual intelligence. What should we be doing? Where should we be going? Then bring in your artificial intelligence. How do we accelerate what we should be doing and where we should be going? Right? Those two things, AI and spiritual intelligence, they don't have to fight with each other. And quite frankly, God is not threatened by AI.
Mhm.
Okay. The biggest revelation I had growing up in this career is this. I was sitting in a room, I was in consulting, and my client was a FANG. I was sitting in a room, and in one direction, you saw someone, I saw someone trying to use these visors to experience a digital world, a virtual world. I saw another person working with a Jamboard and trying to bring in the capability for that Jamboard to sense when he came so that it could start engaging, right? All of those things are things that God already planned and he put
Yeah.
it in human beings. Okay.
Mm.
So, right. And even me too, like when I'm coding something up and I start running into issues, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to have that AI have an intelligence that God has already coded in us. And I'm just still trying to code it billions of years later,
Mhm. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So those two things don't have to fight with each other. What's most important is spiritual intelligence, but the spiritual intelligence, if I'm a spiritual person and I moving with the Holy Spirit, does it mean I can't use AI? Does it mean I'm selling out as a Christian if I'm using AI? Absolutely not. Those two can marry each other, and God is not threatened by it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I heard someone say it this way, that using artificial intelligence as a tool, but spiritual intelligence is like the solution. Like, so you can only really get the
Exactly.
solution from God,
Exactly.
but you could, as you said, accelerate. Like you can use the artificial intelligence as a tool to get you to the solution. So
Exactly.
yeah, I love that. They can be used together, but knowing that the dominant one and whoever has the last say should be the spiritual intelligence and not the artificial.
Exactly.
Yeah, love
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. All right. We're coming to the end of this. I'm like,
Are
this has
we?
gone so quickly. There are two questions I want to ask you for the
Sure.
listeners. Again, I always like to make this tactical and practical. Like, what are some of the things people can take away?
Yeah.
So one of the second to last question I have for you is that if you could go back and talk to that young woman, that young creative, and I know you're still creative, who wanted to go to creative school, what would you tell her now?
Gosh, I would tell her that the world is more dynamic, more convoluted, both in bad ways, but also in good ways than she realized it. Than she realized it. And I would tell her that truly patience is the key. I would also tell her that her creative inklings is a long-term burden that God has put in her heart, and he's very aware of it, but trust his way in terms of how that exercises itself. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that.
Mhm.
And something that just came to my mind is because I think there's a lot of women or even just corporate Christians in the same position as you, where they were born to be creative and all that, and they feel like they need to do X,
Yeah.
Y, and Z, but they became doctors, they became,
Mm,
analysts, or they
yeah.
became consultants. What are some
Yeah.
of the ways that you, like in this moment now, what are some of the
Yes.
ways that you are, what's your outlet for creativity outside the
Sure.
workplace?
And this is why I would say tell that young girl to be patient.
Yeah.
One of my like God has taught me to see everything I stand in as an opportunity.
Hmm.
So for example, I'm parenting little children. Little children's minds zigzag in places because some things have not been nipped in the bud in their
Hmm.
like their neural pathways. Their minds go all over the place. Their mind says, my daughter says some things, my son says some things, and I'm like, oh, right. So sometimes she says something and I write it down, like, you need to build on that somehow, you
Hmm.
know or even just the fact that they love to create, they love colors, they're just discovering colors, so they're an outlet. But the other ways that like literally, if you just open your eyes and find different areas in your life where, there's an opportunity to see something differently, right? To spark something in you. Other outlets that I'm creative, I love to tell stories. I'm a storyteller. In fact, that's everything. If there's ways to, if you can just define the simple thing, storytelling, for example, you can actually find that there are different ways, even within your current work, you know, to
Yeah.
exercise that creativity,
Yeah.
right? Are you a storyteller, but you find yourself a doctor to children?
Hmm.
Tell the child that you're treating with cancer
Yeah.
stories,
Yeah. Yeah.
to help them recover, to
Hmm.
help them have hope. Tell them stories, write the stories down. If you draw the story and give it, hey, I created this for you, take it home. I don't know if there's any codes that doctors can't follow in
Yeah.
doing that, but
Yeah.
there's just things like that, like find the simple ways, and I try to do that. And then there's other times too, like even online and with all this AI, all these AI things, I take the opportunity to, like, join 3-week sessions of, like, create cartoons with AI and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So find that and plan for it.
Mhm.
Like, let your calendar be blocked out for those things when you can
Yeah.
have it, so you can exercise it. Yeah,
Yeah. I think that's so important.
yeah,
We all have to do what gives us energy.
yes,
Because I think
energy,
that's the
yes,
only way that we
yes,
can sustain
yeah. It's refreshing.
yes, it is refreshing. Oh, but you
Yeah.
also forgot to say that you sing. Your voice is
Ah.
amazing. Like, I just remembered that, like, it was how long ago? Probably about 18 years ago that I met you or
Yeah.
something in the
It's been
choir.
a while. It's
It's
been
a
a while.
while. It's a
Yeah.
while. Now that I'm just thinking about it, I'm just like, wait, weren't
Yeah.
we in the choir together like 18
Yes.
years ago?
Yes. It's a while. Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, I do sing.
Yes.
And right now, my outlet for singing is after my kids go to bed. I
Yeah.
find a room by myself and I sing, even if it's just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's something I love to do. It's something, and I'm singing worship. Something I love to do is something that energizes me after I do it.
Yeah.
Are there other outlets for it? Sure, but this is the one that
Yeah.
I'm exercising right
Right
now.
now,
Yeah,
exactly. Seasons.
yeah,
All about
season,
seasons. I hear that.
season.
I hear that.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
All right. Let's wrap up with the last question. My last question for you is that for listeners who feel lost in their careers, or
yeah.
spiritually disconnected, like they just don't see a way in which they can connect their career with their faith, what are your
Mhm.
3 pieces of wisdom?
One is that you can never really be too far gone.
Yeah.
you know, we like to say lost, like God lost us. No, He knows where you're at.
Yeah.
And just there's scripture, because I get there too. I get there too, especially when I've been busy and I flew here and I flew there. I didn't read my Bible. I've had seasons like that. But what I always have to turn back to is the simple scripture. Um, Draw near to me and I'll draw near to you. Simple. It really is very simple. Then I think about that scripture and I have to ask myself, do you really believe what God said? And my answer to that is always yes.
Mhm.
Right? So just draw near. You can never be too far gone. Draw near. And if drawing near means that you have to exercise muscles that you haven't exercised in a while, like the prayer, the Bible reading. Be patient with yourself and graceful with yourself. If there's anyone in your life that you look at and they're like, wow, they're just so spiritual, and blah, 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 whatever it is they have is something God gave them. They didn't do it. They
Yes.
didn't do it in and of themselves.
Yes.
Right. So if you're feeling truly disconnected, draw near and stick with the process, kind of like you're dating a new person and you have to stick with the process of getting to know who this person is.
Mhm.
And some moments you're going to have a 5-minute chat with them, and some moments it's going to be a 30-minute chat with them. But in totality, all of that equals growth with that person. It's the same way with God. He is a person,
Yeah.
you know. So do that. And also the last thing I would say is like find your tribe, you know. Find your tribe. And it's so weird because we're in such a connected world that is so disconnected.
Mhm. Yeah, that's powerful. That's so
Yeah,
true.
yeah. We're in such a connected world that is so disconnected. So there will be people out there. It's like I need a tribe, and it's like I don't even know where to start. You know, find your tribe. Are there people in the office that have the same passion as you and the same hunger as you? If you are planted in a church, or at least attending or going to a church, are there people there? I'm sure we'll find.
Mhm.
Are there people there that are, navigating this corporate world but need a little bit more and are trying to figure it out? I think part of that is being honest with ourselves and honest with others, um, and being open to whatever happens at the other side of that honesty. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I love that. And I know it's going to
yeah,
bless people. I love that. This has been
yeah.
so good. Where can
Thank
people
you.
find you? If they
Oh
if they
gosh.
want more Aramide, where can they
Yeah.
find you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. From a professional standpoint, I'm on LinkedIn. I also host a podcast. So for any listeners here that might be of a Nigerian influenced identity, I host a podcast called Dear Nigerians. And that's really a podcast where we're discovering topics that are all about folks with this Nigerian identity or Nigerian influence identity, and how we become the best version of ourselves. I say that plainly, but obviously also inspired by where God wants those conversations to go. So that's the one thing that I'm doing, and I'm on Instagram. So
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's
thank
not
you.
easy to give up that almost an hour of your time. So thank you, Aramide. I
Okay,
appreciate you. The people appreciate you. And hopefully we can have you on again.
awesome. I love that.
Right.
Thank you so much, Pedro.
Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Christians in Corporate podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I would love to hear your feedback. So please be sure to comment down below or connect with me on social media using the handle @PageRakintarin. Oh, wait, and one more thing. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content just like this. See you in the next episode.